Welcome to the Centaur Podcast. I'm Cameron Adibi, and together we will explore the fascinating world of horse-human communication and the extraordinary connections they develop between our species. Join me as we delve into the unique ways humans and horses connect and understand each other. Through discussions with true innovators, we uncover the subtle cues, bonding techniques, and emotional connections that enrich our relationships with these remarkable animals. Whether you are a seasoned equestrian or simply curious about the language of horses, there's something here for everyone. Piper Klemm is an educator, publisher, and equestrian who owns and publishes the Plaid Horse. Her mission centers around educating young equestrians in all aspects of the industry, with a particular emphasis on empowering young women to discover and share their voices and stories. The Plaid Horse thrives thanks to the collaborative efforts of a dedicated team of women. Piper also launched the Plaidcast, which has become North America's most listened to horse show podcast, and co-authored the Show Strides book series. With a Ph.D. in chemistry from the University of California, Berkeley, she made the bold decision to leave her science career to pursue a path in publishing. Through our conversation, we explored a variety of engaging topics, all centered around a shared passion for horses. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Piper, so great to meet you. Thank you for joining. I'm very honored. I'm a big fan of the Plaid Horse and the Plaidcast. And you just got this really interesting background. And I came into this kind of late. That started as a therapeutic horseback riding instructor, got trained, and now I'm doing my own thing. But you have a very fascinating background, and this is not lightweight stuff either. With a PhD from UC Berkeley, I'm from an academic family, so I know what that takes, and I know the drill. But I have to ask right away, like, how was that change? You did a shift somewhere along the way, and how was that change? Was it like a weight light experience? Was it gradual? What happened to switch from a PhD at UC Berkeley in chemistry, no less, not just English? I got a environmental background, but please, I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, it's a lot of it's coincidence and saying yes and timing and all kinds of things that I preach now. I always saw myself in business. I always saw myself, figuring out something novel in business to help people. I come from a very academic family. That's the only language they speak. And, a little bit with your family always, if you don't speak their language a little bit, it's hard for you to get them on their side. I loved the game of graduate school more than I loved being at the bench doing chemistry. And I knew that, and I was very successful. But I also, things that you're not passionate and not having fun with the actual process. I mean, there's only so far you can get. And I went as far as I was going to go because I just didn't have the passion to run reactions all day, every day. I didn't ride actually for a spell. I took school very seriously. And one of the reasons I encourage, the horse thing all around for young people is that I was extremely successful in school because of all the skills I learned at the barn. In graduate school, there's very little supervision. It's very easy to procrastinate. It's very easy to get lost. And, when you grow up at the barn, you wake up and you tackle problems. Like that's, you don't have a choice. You get to the barn and you handle things. You get up early and you get at it and you chase things, you run to the roar, and that's how I treated grad school, how I had treated every day at the barn of my life, grooming and, riding young horses and all these things. And so even though I was focused on something different, those skills served me so well and, brought me a lot of success. And then, it was like kind of random. I, wanted a break after grad school and I hadn't really been riding. And I decided my break was going to be that I go to the thermal horse show circuit in California and just kind of decompress a little bit down there. It's beautiful in the desert and, get away from things. And I hadn't even really been riding. And I went down and I was going like full speed ahead. And then I'm like basically doing nothing. I hadn't lived out there, done the horsing really out on the West Coast, so I didn't really know anyone. And so I'm not really doing anything, and I don't really know anyone. And I met some people and stuff. And then basically completely randomly, someone I met posted on their Facebook that that their rider couldn't cover the Grand Prix that night. Could somebody, was someone around doing nothing that could help and cover the class? And I was like, sure, I can do that. And I've never taken a journalism class in my life.
I love it.
And I'm like, sure, I can do that. And so I went and I did it. And it really was in hindsight, a light bulb moment for me. I had wanted to learn my whole life, and growing up in this sport, there was no YouTube, there was none of this stuff. I wanted to learn. I asked everyone questions, and it was basically, I grew up in the sport in a culture time of don't ask questions. Your trainer tells you what to do and you do it. And there was no quote unquote talking back, which I never want to talk back, but I had questions I want to learn. And I didn't find it to be a learning environment. And to walk up to Grand Prix riders and have them ask some questions, legit riding, training, horse questions that I have, and have them be excited to answer them, was a light bulb. I was like, this is a moment. And then social media was just getting started. And I was like, oh, we can use social media to educate people. And, I was one of the first people in the horse business to really kind of see that power. I didn't see where it was going. None of us saw where social media in general was going, but I saw that something was changing, and opportunity comes when things change. And the old guard had no interest in learning about social media, being on social media, changing anything. And I was like, this is such an opportunity. And so it really kind of all evolved from there. Had I not gone on that trip, had I not, so many layers of this, had I not met that person the week before and become Facebook friends with them to even see that post, had I not, all these layers. But I think some of this stuff just happens. And when I look in hindsight, I always loved reading magazines. I would read, I remember being 7 years old and reading my parents' alumni magazines, which are probably the most boring things in the world to people. But I always I loved that sense and the forum of having something that's just long enough that you may or may not have been interested in when you started, but then a lot enough about that topic when you're done. I just love the whole concepts of magazines and kind of sitting around and getting to read. I think getting to read is one of the, without distraction, is was always a big privilege, but I think in today's world is one of the biggest privileges that you can have.
That's remarkable. That does sound divine. That all lined up just like that, and not to mention, this is, if I read correctly, this is 2003 when this kind of this moment happened when you got that offer.
So I bought the Plaid Horse in 2013. So
2013,
this
okay.
was all 2013. Yeah, the Plaid Horse is founded in 2003. And I just put out my 100th issue myself. April 2024
Fabulous.
was my 100th issue.
Okay.
So fast forward, I'm 25 years old. People are still asking me if I'm showing in the Medium Pony Hunters, which for those listening is a 14 and under division. I always kind of looked young, and my voice was a little squeaky when I was young. And so people would always ask me how young I was, basically. And I knew I couldn't start something with zero, but I also had no money. And I had a little bit saved up, but not much. And so what I ended up doing, I called around and found something to buy. I bought the Plaid Horse on a mortgage. I made a very small down payment, and then I made monthly payments until it was paid off for the first 3 years every month. And
wow.
And I had no idea. I didn't know I was going to buy a print magazine. I thought I would buy a website or something like that. I had no idea how to do anything. I literally it was the fastest deal in the world. I cold called around, found out who owned it. I called her. I asked if she would sell. I didn't read into it at all. And immediately she was like, yes. I think about that now. If you call someone and they're like, will you sell your business? And they're like, yes. I mean, I don't know. Me at this age would be like, that's a red flag. But me at 20, 25, I was like, great. And so literally I from the initial phone call to owning the magazine was 5 or 6 weeks, and then I had 5 weeks to put out my first issue. And I didn't know how to invoice. I didn't know how to use like the design things. Like I had no idea how to do anything, and it was just like figure it out. And the first, I would even say 10. I mean, the first 10 years were so rough. And now everything's challenging and you're trying to stay ahead of things and stuff. But it's not rough in the same way. It's a challenge now and it's fun, but it was rough.
This is so remarkable. I had no idea. I mean, Marianne, thanks to Marianne Simons, I'm talking to you today. But yeah, not only were you ahead of the curve, this is before, this is like early social media. You're a young woman trying to go into publishing, which is, people are falling by the wayside in publishing right now. It's a brutal business. Yeah. And you're in the horse industry, which is, it's incredible. This is all pulled out. You pulled this off. This is really, and that you have this academic background and you just followed your gut.
And I didn't have a great horse background because I hadn't really been riding. I'd been riding growing up and I was just starting to get back in and starting to ride again. But I also was like very acutely aware of what I didn't know as a horse person too. So like this is all stacked against me. And I just like barreled forward and I never thought about any of this.
We're going to talk about getting a lottery ticket after the show here, because you had something divine happening there. And I have to go back to what you said though. There was something very important. You said that you had that foundation as a child working at the farm, working around horses, that you were able to, problem solve. And that's actually one of the things I'm very key in what I do with my equine guided learning programs with kids. It's like, we're going to do some chores. We're going to do things around the farm because it ties in all together. So that's like that project management. You're how many employees now?
We vary in size a little bit, but we have a designer, a blog editor. We're a big group, and it's fun. A lot of people contribute various amounts of their time, and it's managing is its own beast. Again, I always say to everyone that I own my own business because I never wanted anyone else to tell me what to do, but it never really occurred to me that I would then have to tell other people what to do. And I am not gifted in that area. I've worked so hard at it, and it's hard.
Just kudos, really, congratulations. Just pulling that off. So the Plaid Horse is I looked at the first issue, by the way, and the first issue it was just gorgeous. You did so you obviously knew you had at least knew what you're doing. You had people there helping you, but you really you had a gift right out of the gate there. It's not like that was not like a newsletter. That was still very nice 2013 July, the first one you published.
Yeah.
But so I also had, because I had to look into some of the articles, and one of them was removing barriers to success, which So I was like, this is this kind of stuff I like, but I saw photos were by Adam Hall, who is your husband. Is that correct?
Adam Hill. Yep.
Adam Hill. Excuse me.
Yep.
So I have to ask this because this is not a tough industry. This is a tough industry to be in, and he's still got a job. But how do you? But he sounds like he's a horseman as well.
No.
He's okay.
He's a chemist. He's a chemistry professor at Trinity College, which is why we moved to Hartford a couple of years ago. And he just got tenure again at Trinity. He's an academic. I was raised by academics. I married an academic.
Oh my God! Wait till I tell my mom and my. But yeah, so this is. Yeah. I thought I saw on your website that he had ponies, but I got that wrong. Sorry. But
we just joke around about it because I have a bunch of ponies, so we joke around about his ponies sometimes, or he posts the family ponies. But yeah, he's not a horse person, but he got into photography, like landscape photography, when we were in grad school. When we lived in Berkeley, and the San Francisco Bay Area is like the perfect place to take photos. And then he started, when he would come along to horse shows here and there, he started to take pictures, and we use a lot of them in the magazine, and so that's been fun. And his kind of way to contribute to everything, which has been really nice. And he comes on some like trips over the summer sometimes, and over winter break we went to Mechelen in Belgium for the 5-star show jumping there. So he got to come along on that because it was on Christmas break. So it's fun for him to come on things sometimes, and he's really supportive. And it's been interesting to me over the years. Like, so many people say, like, how do you get your husband to like let you like travel or like let you do all this stuff? And I just find that to be such a bizarre question that's so horrible to me that these people think this way. And
this is the old world. You're in the old world. You are in the old world and trying to break into, and modernize a very traditional equestrian, which is what my question is, because I know how brutal it's to make a living in the horse industry. It's not easy. And your mission is to help young equestrians, right, navigate this world. So my question really was, do you have a life balance? It's like really very difficult, I find. I don't have a partner. Like, how do you have a life balance in this kind of crazy life you live?
I have no life balance. I don't aspire to have one. What I do is hard and I love it, and it's what I get to do every day what I want to do. I wake up and I want to work, and I work all the time, and I work 7 days a week. And I think this balance thing is we're selling people on, something like ridiculous in a lot of ways. Like I don't think balance exists in anything. And like the people I know who talk about balance are all like constantly to me are unhappy. And I'm not saying to not take rests and to not take breaks. When I wake up in the morning and I don't want to work, this happens to me like once every 6 or 7 months. I will wake up in the morning and I do not want to work. I do nothing. I cancel all my meetings and I don't work. I listen to myself, and it's not about not listening to your body. And it's not about, if my body's having issues, I'm still a horse person. So my body having issues is a much higher threshold than the average bear. But, I figure out how to take time off or move things around a little bit. But I think I a little bit think that like this balancing that we all strive for is, not healthy in its own way, because we're like giving this illusion that we're going to feel X, Y, or Z. And if you want to do big things, like if you want to be average, like go be average, like no one's stopping you. That's great. If you want to have certain hours or take time off, like do it. But like understood that you will always be beat by people who are not like that. There will always be me there outworking you. There will always be people who want it more than you do. And that's fine, but you can't complain that you don't have that. I think there's a lot of people I see riding that just don't put it in and then complain when it doesn't come out. And I'm like, I think we both need to be happier with where we are on things, and also like rationally acknowledge like what we have done, what we put in, and where we are. But I think selling to people and young people that this concept of balance, I find that a little off sometimes.
I totally hear you. I know where you're coming from. This kind of chasing the perfect or the green, whatever. Yep. There's a little bit, like without putting the hard work back to that, freaking just go muck the stall, Yep. So I have to. You have the Plaidcast podcast. I've been really enjoying some of the interviews, and one of them you just had recently was with. By the way, this is the most listened to podcast, I think. Is it right? You're right. Yeah. So yep. Congrats on that. But you had an interview with somebody I really like, Denny Emerson, and yep. Tamarack Hill Farm is still like up there for. I follow them and listen what that's going on up there. But Denny was he was kind of like straight shoot. I never listened to him before, and I find that he was also very talking a lot about the independent seat, which is I think very, very down to the fundamental foundations. But he was also talking about, he was referring to this metaphor, like he likes to ski as an amateur, which is fine, right? But if you want to go into competition, you have to go. There's not like I'm going to do this part time, I have to really go all in. And it seems like that's kind of what you've had to do with this media giant you've become in the horse industry. It's like you are all in, and so do you feel like you had to make some sacrifices then?
I don't think so. I mean, I love what I do, and I've gotten to spend time all over the world with such interesting people, and and interview them and talk to them, and I find it all really exciting, passing out the magazine and talking to everyone and getting in the mix and coming home and writing and things. And so I don't think so. I mean, I think all of us who ride and show wish we could ride and show more. Riding and showing, I'm an amateur, it's my hobby, like my profession is this. And um but I think that's a financial limitation that applies to 99.9% of us who do this. Like, I think almost all of us, given more budget, would ride and show more, but I don't think that has anything to do with my job or sacrifices or anything. I think it's just that I love this, and if I could do it even more, I absolutely would.
That's awesome. So you've had some really in the bus, not only interviews, but also at the story just recently. Dr. Alberto Rulan.
Hmm.
Yeah, fascinating story there. So I didn't get to listen to the podcast, but I did read the story. So this is a guy down in Ocala who started the Equine Performance Innovation Center. He's a vet, and you back to your mission of like helping young equestrians. This guy was from Puerto Rico originally. Sounds like he had a really tough time. It didn't come easy. Nothing came easy for him there, but now he's really doing well. But he said, you quoted him, "I've never met one horse owner or trainer who wants to harm the horse." And I find that was very profound that he said that. And I do find that's the same. But what I've experienced is that a lot of people just don't know, we don't know what we don't know. We do things. So he's got this approach where he's doing this complementary approach to consider the horse in its natural environment, and it is as an individual, which is back to Marianne Simons, all by horse by nature. But so this is it seems like also an big education mission here that you're working with a lot of people from a very traditional background. Do you feel like there's more interest in stuff like what Dr. Alan Rulan is, and what was your takeaway with interviewing and talking with him?
I think my biggest takeaway was that he was so inspiring. I mean, there are no vet schools in Puerto Rico. He had to come here, learn the language, like do all these things that are so hard for any of us bored here knowing the language. And he had to go where he didn't know anyone and figure it all out and make it happen. And we all know how hard that is, emotionally, physically, mentally. It's just taxing. But he was still so optimistic and inspiring. And I think sometimes, like, I have a note card on my desk that says, like, does knowing how hard, like, is it really helpful to people to know how hard something is? Sometimes I think in today's world, we have so much data that someone goes out to try something and we all bombard them with like how hard it's going to be. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. Cause like, if I had known how hard all this was going to be, would I've done it? Like, I can't say like, yes, necessarily. I mean, now that I've done it, I like love it. I love that I have it. And I love that I've done it. But like, day to day, if you told me how hard it was going to be, like, it was awful. Like, there's no sugarcoating. It was so hard.
Mm.
And so I think that like we're often missing that inspiring component, or we want to like tone down other people's inspiration. And I think that's such a disservice to all of us. We all need inspiration. We all need that push. I'm totally that friend. People call me and I'm totally pushing them to do something bigger and something outside the box and something whatever. And, I have two friends recently, like one has really big goals and I pushed to take this really big job and he didn't make it. He quit. And it's been this like a little bit reckoning with me of like, would he have been better off to like not aspire that big? I don't think if he hadn't talked to me, he would have aspired that big? Like, did I make him worse by like trying to do something too big that he failed at? Like, where's my ethical value as a friend? And, I've thought a lot about this in the last few weeks, and I don't, so many people have friends that are so cautious and that are so whatever. And I think that everyone knows that if they come to me, they're going to get a bold answer. And, I think I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with the fact that knowing, like, I think he's better off having tried, even if he didn't make it, than if he had not even tried or stayed home or sat around and wondered what if. And so there's so many layers to these things. My other friends, like my other friend recently came to me and had this big like thing in her life, and ended up, I suggested something that was completely outside the box, and she was like not even thinking that direction, and now she's making a huge life change that was in the direction where she hadn't even thought of. And I'm sitting here being like, oh, I hope it like works, but also like people need stuff shaken up sometimes. So I think a lot of people give really cautious advice and don't have that inspiration and don't have that think big mentality. And I don't think failure is the worst thing, and I think we need to de-emphasize that a little bit. And everything just feels so public because we're all on social media all the time, and like everyone sees everything, and I think it's made people timid. And so there's kind of that layer of inspiration that I wish we can kind of tell people to think bigger and dream bigger and push a little harder. I think we've lost so much community, between the pandemic and social media, and I try to do that, like, and I think our brains are wired now in the wrong way, where we want 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 likes. Like, I sent an email, and like with one click of a button, we have 100,000 on our email list. I'll have 20, 30,000 opens within 5 minutes. Like, that's insane. Those are stupid numbers. My brain can't conceptualize this. And I think we've lost touch with the fact that like USHJA was founded by a group of like 7 people, like the American Horse Shows Association that became US Equestrian. Like, all these groups were started by very small groups of people. WCHR, the World Champion Hunter Rider, like all of these things that like shape our lives were these groups of like 5 to 10 people who like sat down and put in the work and did it. And so like our brains are so accustomed to think that we need hundreds of people to like this or thousands of people to watch that. And, I think we're like kind of stuck on the wrong things. And so I have a lot of dinners at my house. My dining room seats 10. And so it's basically like 10 and under groups, of people. And we have the best conversations, and people feel so open. And I think that that's like what's missing when you eat, even when you eat with people in a restaurant, which is like better than nothing. You're getting interrupted by the server. You're like worried that other horse people are at the tables. Like, you're not truly like open in conversation. And I think having people in your home, they're open in conversation. We can actually talk about big things. We can talk about making progress, and like small groups of people, I think, is what has always changed the industry and what will change the industry. And like, it's the old Margaret Mead quote, like, never doubt, what is it? Never doubt a small group of people can change the world. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing that ever has. And I think we've lost that totally in our industry. So I would like to see people in smaller groups, meeting off site, having real conversations. So I think inspiration, community, and education. And I think education doesn't need to be unfun. It doesn't need to be serious all the time. It could be little things. And we published this book with purpose a couple of years ago. And one of the things, out of like hundreds of pages, but one of the things that's mentioned is in the book is that, if you're always leading your horse on the left side, when you lead them into the cross ties, you're always turning left. And one of the things they say is, think about your horse even and balance, like lead them in the cross ties and turn them right. And that's one of the things out of hundreds of pages. But people walk up to me every horse show every day, and they're like, I started turning my horse right into the cross ties when I read that book. And I'm like, it's so little, it's so easy. And like, these are the types of things that change the world. And let's keep kind of stacking on those little things.
Well, yeah. Okay. You are obviously a deep thinker. That was remarkable. A lot to digest there. You do have life balance. I just caught a couple the dinner parties. I used to live in New York City. I used to have those all the time. Not anymore. It's very rare. That's a huge thing. So that's balance there. And then the other one is the life of a horse, how to see if where they need balance. So this is good. It's good stuff. But yeah, you mentioned something very key and about the community and how we continue to adapt in a very fast-paced, evolving world. And back to Dr. Rulin, who's trying to help trying to help with new vet assistants, like he's doing service already, which is incredible. But yeah, this is a very sensitive subject right now that, farms are being sold. There's less places. I work with kids. There's less and less places for kids to go right now. And it's diminishing. We're not seeing a lot of new people come to the sport. My podcast and my people that are coming to me are from a non-equestrian background. I'm so grateful. That's exciting for me right now. But most people are in their 60s at the barns I go to. There's not a lot of young people, and so that's like you see this. Like, what do you see? How do we stay vibrant and keep growing and inviting new people, including people from Puerto Rico? And you had a great interview too with this Iranian immigrant, Dr. Ph.D, who's a vet researcher over at UC Davis, right? Another big heavyweight guy. But there's how do we invite and bridge that so it's and keep. You also said in the Denny interview that we've become very siloed and that's I also see that in this even small amateur New England farms. So a couple questions there, really, that if you don't mind, thank you.
For sure. And, costs and insurance and liability is a huge issue in this country. I don't know, like those things are real and it's hard to get around them. And we have this litigious culture that a lot of other countries don't have. And it makes the horse thing really hard because, they're living animals and you don't know. And, buying a horse for someone or, advising them or teaching them. I mean, these are big things. And, and then we have, all these issues of McMansions going up everywhere, that's been happening for the last 50 years in this country in one way or another. And when I interview people on the Plaidcast, a lot of times I ask how they started riding, and we think of horses as these like dynastic horse families, but most of the people I interview, we drove by a barn on the way home. And I mean, I remember from my drive from school to home, I drove by like many farms growing up, and I doubt any of them are farms anymore. And, these are the places where people live, the population centers. I mean, it's hard to have enough space to have horses. It's hard to give horses a quality of life, that you want to give them if you have, I think the Dallas Equestrian Center in downtown Dallas. So it's like the perfect location for everyone to start riding and meet a first horse. And it has so many benefits to the community. I mean, I think it's about 10 acres and has about 150 horses there. I mean, that's a lot of logistics, a lot of labor, a lot of expense to keep all those horses out of their stalls enough, keep them healthy, like keep them moving. And so like California is a lot like this. You have these mega centers in the center of things, which is great. We need horses in the center of things, but how do you keep them going? How do you keep them healthy? And I think it's a lot of little things. I think we've lost volunteer culture. It's interesting. I was working with a college student this afternoon, and we were just doing something to help out this trainer that does a good job that I like. And she was like, "Why are we doing this?" And I was like, "Oh, I like help them out." And she's like, "Do we get a commission? Do we get paid on that? Like how are we getting?" And I was like, "No, like this person does good for the community. We are supporting them, period." And I think we just like lost this sense that everyone wants to monetize everything, and everyone wants every minute of their time to have value. And I think we've lost a sense of like what a hobby is, what a community is, like, and I get it. Like everyone has a lot of bills, all these things evolve for a reason. I mean, it's all hard. Everything about it is hard. But I do think if there's a way that we could bring in more volunteer culture again to just help each other out, and I think a lot of horse shows were small family-run things or local barn-run things. And then when it's a mega circuit making mega money, I get it. No one wants to volunteer for them. It's owned by a private equity group. So we have evolved in all these weird ways, but I think becoming smaller, becoming more local, I think the answer is everyone tries to make everything, scalable and all these business buzzwords all the time. And like friendship's not scalable. Education is not, I don't care what anyone says, education is not scalable. Look at how many people have lost how much money trying to make education scalable. Like education is between teacher and student, and that teacher can be a horse, it can be a human, but it is like a relationship. And we've made all these things, we've like dehumanized them to the point where like no one's having any fun and no one is making money either, even though they are frustrated with things. And like a lot of things are soulless, but we want things to be so predictable and so even and have the same care. We've demanded this, but then we realize that it's not fun to know the courses before you show up for the horse show. Like, but we want something that's so consistent that's how it is. And I say this all over, like I go to horse shows all over the world. I was just in Abu Dhabi a couple weeks ago for the League of Nations, and like Longines is a jump sponsor, and it's in their sponsorship Longines is a league sponsor, and it's in their sponsorship that they always sponsor the triple combination. So they have the same jumps in the same format in the triple combination. And like, so, and everyone, I'll go somewhere, I'll go to Spain, I'll go wherever. And people are like, what's Spain like? What's Abu Dhabi like? And I'm like, okay, well, like I landed at the airport. Like I took a car to the horse show. I spent like 3 to 5 days at the horse show where the same people jump the same jumps with the same course designers, with the same, like everything. And then I like take the car to the airport and go home. Like it's not any different in a lot of ways than for me going to Florida or for me going to like Fieldstone or, any of these other things. And we've lost some of that charm. It's like I was in Saudi Arabia last year, and in the horse show venue was a Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm just
Incredible.
like, and everyone's like, what's Saudi Arabia like? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I walked into the horse show, like had Dunkin',
Unbelievable.
saw the same people jump the same jumps, and then flew home. Like we've lost this like character, and everywhere in the world, speaks English now. And so, and it's harder when it's different. It's harder when you don't know what to prepare for and what to expect. And we don't want that. Like everything in American life is geared around towards making life easier. And horses cannot get easier. I mean, they just are what they are. You have to take care of them. You have to be part of it. That's the magic. But also, like, I don't know where we go when we're making things easier and easier and easier for our kids. And that's the goal. And that's a goal for ourselves and our people. And horses don't get easier.
Yeah, it's very, very true. So it's absolutely this whole cookie cutter kind of culture. Everything, is kind of sterilized. There's no variety. And you mentioned also earlier about risk taking. Everybody's getting more and more fearful and about putting themselves out and doing something different. To me, it's just like there's a desperate need for innovation, like you taking your risk. I'm a little bit, I'm following a little bit of a path, but it's a little unclear. But I'm working with, again, this equine guide learning program, and it's exclusively unmounted. So I'm really offering ways for kids and adults to learn how to connect and bond and build that relationship, which, it's a little, what, you're not doing riding? Nope. You go somewhere else for that. This is more important to me, and there's more value in the long run. And that was really what Spanish riding school and all these old riding schools. That's what they did. There's no time. There's another problem is we're so overbooked, and back to balance. But this I have one thought I had. I'm curious, but one thought is like, because I have family around the world, but clubs, like having small clubs, because again, the horse ownership is so high barrier to entry, but having small clubs how to like build more communities. But the other one is, again, I'm going to go back to not only Dr. Poulin, but this guy you interviewed, Dr. Poyandini. There's a lot of people from other cultures too that I think this is where horses bring us all together. You've traveled around the world. You see people speaking multiple languages. Horses, they don't care what language you speak. As long as you speak to them. But how do we, make it more of a global community in the horse world that we invite? That it has. Is like, do you feel like the Plaid Horse has a global viewership right now, or is it mostly U.S.?
We're pretty global. We've got a pretty big reach in Europe and, expanding and, all kinds of places. I mean, I've never been to Australia or New Zealand, but, we get lots of hits on the website. In the show jumping side of things, I haven't been there yet either, but, China now has 2 5-stars. And so things are growing like crazy. And I meet fans everywhere I go. And sometimes I go new places that I'm not sure, like, if we have a presence. And I've always so far been surprised at how many fans we have literally anywhere I go. I think that I really truly believe that horses are the only thing that can really save us right now from this culture, from ourselves, of
Agreed.
this phone. Yeah,
Agreed.
you have to be present. They don't care. Like, they are in the moment. Whether you're riding, whether you're, in the barn with them, anything you're doing with a horse, like, they are so in the moment. And I think they're the only thing that can teach us how to live again and how to be in the moment and teach our kids how to be in the moment. I was at the airport the other day, and this like baby, like, it literally looked like a baby to me. I'm not a big kid person. I don't know much about children's ages, but it looked like a baby to me, and it had an iPad, and the parents took it away and to get on the airplane. And it just, I mean, it literally looked to me like drugs being taken away from an addict. Like, it was like one of these just stark things. And I was telling my other friend about it, and he was saying, he's like, I think that phones are like the crack epidemic of our generation. And he's like, and I thought this was so interesting. And he's like, we used to see all those images on TV of like crack babies, and how dare these moms do this to these babies. And then we're sitting here like handing babies phones and screens and, totally screwing up their brain pathways the same way as like, this is our own epidemic. This is the epidemic of our era. And it's an addiction like anything else. We all know that we're addicted at some level to all of this stuff. We all know. We've all been on reels when we don't want to be. Like, we've all, whatever. One of the things I've done recently is I actually made my phone in black and white. I don't know if you've done this or seen this yet. But like, it's a setting in your iPhone. You can, and the amount that my phone sucks, the amount change that my phone sucks me in when it's in black, like, it's so much less in black and white. I'm not fighting with myself. Every color on your phone is designed to suck you in. Every icon, everything is designed for you to be staring at your phone. So anything you can do to mitigate that. And I think really having a culture where you walk in the barn and put your phone, in your trunk, in a locker, in your car, like, and having that time and having that moment. I mean, I think that's what'll save us. And I think there's so many layers of the barn. I do not think we are a very loyal and wonderful community to people in our community. Like, I love our horse community, but we are not welcoming to new people. That's something we all need to work on. I get on people's cases all the time. I literally, every plane I take, I tell the person next to me how they should start taking riding lessons. I'm literally like getting my hair cut, like recommending local barns to people for their kids. Everywhere I go, I talk about horses to people and lessons and, what you do, and not necessarily riding or anything, just like going to a barn, meeting a horse, talking about horses, reading a book about horses. That was one of the goal of the Show Stride series that I wrote. There are 5 books in the series so far. And I want non-horse kids, to read about horses and dream about horses and think about horses, and kids to find this in the library and at their local bookstore, and maybe not yet horse kids, but, inviting people from work to your barn to visit, to meet your horse. my horse is fairly good natured, and he literally does like pony rides for everyone under the sun. He does like people's moms, like he's at the horse show, like doing his thing. And I want everyone to like feel included and feel part of it. And that's something we can all take ownership of and take control of. Having, an open house at your barn and inviting people to meet your horse, have friends and family day. Anything you can do to get other people around. We know what horses do for us. They're amazing. It's incredible. Anything any of us can do to help someone else be around a horse, I mean, it is worth it. It's worth the effort. And it's kind of back to that monetization thing. Like, this is a worthy pursuit of all of our time. Like, no, there's no end game. There's no payment for it. There's no this, that, or the other thing. It is simply a worthy pursuit, and I hope everyone takes advantage of any moment they have. Anytime you can include someone else, just invite more people, include them, and and let them experience like what you get to experience all the time with horses.
So well said. Yeah, I 100%. So I just find this so fascinating. You're in the media industry and you're warning us about the screens. Thank you. Like, who in the media industry is saying that, right? This is a really important topic. I thank you for saying that. It's like the apps are all designed to be addictive. Every single one of them.
Everyone.
And the app designers know that. That's what their job is, to make them addictive. Facebook, all of them. But here,
yes.
This is what we're relying on for for our news, our communication, blah blah blah. But the other one is that I just put this together. Like, so you have over 100,000 subscribers, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
So
we have over 100,000 on our email list.
Okay, so
yeah,
you might be one of the biggest, or the one of the most biggest advocates for the horse out there right now. You have this. You're talking about the benefits. It's so I didn't realize like this is you have a very key role here. Not just telling stories, but bridge and the importance of this creature that has changed my life for sure. So this is I have to, oh God, so many more questions, but you are an author, a co-author of you mentioned already the Show Strides, the children's series, 5 volumes. I mean, you don't sleep. You got so much, obviously you got a lot of energy. This is great. I love it. Go. And so you are an inspiration to a lot of young people, I'm sure. I know. So these books, though, you co-authored. How was that? What was the inspiration for those books? You obviously were a writer as a young girl, but what was the inspiration, and how was that working as a co-author?
I loved every horse book on the planet growing up. I read all of them. I loved, dreaming about horses. I had like a once a week lesson when I started, and the clock moves so slowly. But I read every horse book I could find and everything from the library, and I loved Saddle Club, and I loved Thoroughbred, and I loved all these things. And when I came back as an adult with like more adult sensibilities, I reread the Saddle Club books, and I was like, oh, it's kind of like 3 girls bullying one girl. Like as a kid, we were like, oh, well, she's snotty or she's rich, and it's like felt like entitled to bully her. But then I just saw so much of that behavior in adult women at the barn, of like hating someone because they rode better than you or were richer than you, or like snotty is not something you'd ever really call a man. Like, that's such a diss of a woman, and we're just so mean to each other. I mean, women are so mean to each other. That's an extremely established fact in all aspects of life. But I would see women at the barn being so mean to each other, and then like reading the Saddle Club, it was just this moment for me as an adult, and I was like, we are having like bad role modeling for how we treat other women, and it's starting from like day one. And I just wanted to do better. Like, I wanted, the barn is dramatic enough. We don't need to bully someone. And so I really wanted to make a series where things were hard and things were challenging and realistic, and also, the different characters have things that are easier and harder for themselves, and they work together, through their strengths and their weaknesses, and work together to say, oh, you bring this to the table and struggle here, and I bring that to the table and struggle here, and let's work together to, be better and to read more and to learn more and to understand things, and things that come easily for me, I can help you as your friend, and things that come to you easily. And I also think, like, in our desire to monetize everything as a society, we've forgotten about friendship. Like, you improve yourself so much on your friends. Like, you think about how much you talk to your friends, and you could never afford like that much therapy, or you could never afford how much your friends really pitch in and help you, and we want things to be so defined, and oh, I have a consultant for this and a advisor for that, and these are all like paid positions in your life. But sometimes you just gotta go over to your friend's house and help them clean because they're going through a thing, and then a clean house is going to help them, and it's not always like hire a cleaning lady, or sometimes we just got to swoop in and help our friends. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. And so I really wanted this to start from square one of, let's get the right tone coming in. And my co-author, Rennie Dyball, is a really experienced author. She worked for People magazine for 15 years. She wrote a lot of celebrity memoirs. She has a writing background also. So it was just a lot of fun. Like, she saw the vision, that I had. I'd worked on these for a long time and never kind of made headway on my own, and, kind of couldn't get it all together. So it ended up being perfect, and a lot of fun to do. And I hope we get to continue doing it. And I just really wanted it really mission oriented. I just wanted girls to read better stories, and boys too, to read about girls having more positive relationships, and their boys in the stories too. But obviously it's on the equestrian industry, and a lot of it based on my experience. So there are a lot of little girls in there too.
Very good. Very good. Piper, it's been such a fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed this. I just gotta, before we end, I'd like to ask, I've asked most of my guests this, but you especially, because you have such a pulse of what's going on in, you're global, you're going to shows all around the world. What do you feel like the future of the horse is?
So my husband's a big watch person. He loves watches, and he's big in the watch culture. And it's like, it mirrors ours a lot. Because if you want the most practical watch or useful watch, like obviously an Apple Watch does like literally everything under the sun, but there's been this renaissance of analog watches, and there's a whole community based around it. And he gets a lot of joy, nerding out with his like fellow watch nerds. And I think that like horses are always going to be a place that bring together people who love horses. And I think, we've lost a lot of, I'll say, practicality of the industry. Not that it was ever super practical, but it's even less so than normal. But I think it's going to be critical for everyone to find their place in the industry, and what works for them, and what their role is. And then ultimately kind of being happy with what the role is that you choose, and kind of full circle into the beginning of the conversation. Like, I think it is, somewhat uniquely American that we're like very unhappy with our like position, our station in life. And I see this in spades in the horse industry. This, I deserve to XYZ, or that person doesn't deserve to whatever. Like, we need to find our place. And I think if having a little bit of contentment with ourselves and with our role, like, helps us to be better community members and take better care of each other. And I think there's always going to be an elite of this sport, obviously, and it's your choice if you want to be part of that or not. And it's your choice, as you did, if you want to be part of people who are riding or interacting with the horse. And I hope everyone finds what their passion in the industry, finds what makes them happy, and puts their everything into that. And I think so many people I talk to spend so much time being unhappy. So many people I talk to spend so much time telling me about their ex-trainer or someone in the past that screwed them, or, so many of these layers. And I hope everyone is able to like find their spot and their happiness, and have the space in their brain to like pursue their education on what they're doing, and be better, and every day be better than they were the day before. And kind of get out of their own way a little bit. I actually think that first issue that you're talking about, what was it? The barriers, removing
barriers
the barriers.
to success. Yeah.
I that's something, that article could be in this next issue. Like, people need to remove the barriers to success for themselves. And I think being, unrealistic is a big barrier to success. And I think dwelling so much on how hard something's going to be is a big barrier to success, and then just diving in and not overthinking it is not something we're good at in today's world. But I wish everyone would try it more.
Yeah, you got a lot of wisdom. I really appreciate it. I wasn't expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but you gave a lot of nuggets today. I'm just gonna throw this out there. I call myself a writer. I have a Substack blog newsletter I do weekly. How about this? How about a gratitude column for the Plaid Horse?
I love it.
Okay, sign me up.
Let's do it.
Okay, you're on.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, that's the final Plaid Horse. Do you have any kind of sneak can you give us any kind of thing coming up for the Plaid Horse or Plaidcast coming up?
We have a lot of great issues coming up. The Plaidcast has come out the last 430 Fridays, and we've never been late and never missed a Friday in all those years. So come join us at theplaidhorse.com/listen, or anywhere you listen to podcasts, search the Plaidcast. We have a lot of great issues coming out this year. People more local to you, I'm at Equine Affair in November, and we always have a booth. We're usually in the Young building, so would love to meet anyone who wants to come hang out. We have a lot of fun at Equine Affair, and I live in Connecticut, so I'm around New England. So if you see me at the horse show or out and about, definitely come up and say hey and introduce yourself. I love to meet people, and we have a lot of great issues coming up. And if you want to be invited to dinner at my house, send me an email.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a cook, by the way, so I'll break something. Hey, this is awesome. Equine Affair, I have to plug too, because I go there in Springfield, Mass. It's a real it's you can't find it anywhere in New England, really. It's the biggest, like 2,000 people plus. So good, I'll find you there. Hopefully you get to meet sooner. But Piper, thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure talking with you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining this episode on the Centaur Podcast. I'm Cameron Adibi again, and please check out my website to learn more about what I do at CameronAdibi.com. That's CameronAdibi.com. I hope you enjoyed this discussion and gained some valuable insights. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in next time for more engaging conversations. Until then, take care.